Hey Jim, thanks for taking time out for me. Appreciate you doing that. Just wanted to have you do a quick introduction of yourself, your role, and some of your leadership experience.
Sounds good. So my name's Jim Thompson. So I'm a senior manager in product management at US Cellular. I've been a leader on and off for probably about 12 years. I've had a couple of different leadership roles. I've led a device launch team, which was at US Cellular, which was responsible for launching all of our devices. I now lead a product management team responsible for kind of a plethora of different products. And at back and my time at a company called Westel, I also was a senior manager in product management and led a few product managers. So on and off, over a decade of leadership experience.
Appreciate you giving us an overview of that. Some of the things we are learning about organizational behavior relate to employee management and development. One of the questions that I thought was impactful was, what are some of the ways you uncover what motivates members of your team? And do you have any specific processes or tricks to ensure you keep team members motivated once you uncover what drives them?
Yeah, I think as far as tricks go, I wouldn't say tricks, but I think, from a motivation perspective, I think it's always important to start out to kind of know your team, to know your associates, know what kind of drives them, and know what kind of motivates them. And then to kind of to be able to check in because sometimes motivating factors of an individual can change. But to me, I think the most important thing is to kind of understand, what the team members' aspirations are.
How do you find out what motivates them initially, I guess?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is making sure you spend time, in the beginning when the team member, first starts reporting to you. Some of it will obviously will come out in formal goal settings and things like that. But, I think you kind of have to really ask pointed questions on, where the associate wants to go in their career, what type of next steps are they looking for, and really, understand what their development kind of path is. So I think a lot of it is just, having good one-on-one conversations.
Totally understand that. Tell me about a time when you had a really difficult conversation with a direct report. How did you prepare for the meeting and how did you develop the skills to manage this?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, you know, always be prepared in those conversations. And to me, the most important thing you could do is having specific objective feedback. Because if you are obtuse or not specific in the feedback, I think it can make some of those conversations be a lot difficult. And again, I also think it's really important to be objective. It's one thing if it's a one-off situation. It's another thing if it's kind of a repeat occurrence, and you have to know those situations to make sure that you're kind of handling it the right way and not kind of over escalating what could be potentially just, a misunderstanding or a one-off situation.
Did you ever have a conversation that started to not go well? And then how did you course correct if you did?
Yeah, I think, when conversations start to go awry, I think what I try to do is ground the team member on, why we're doing this. And at the end of the day, it's betterment for the associate. It's giving them feedback that should hopefully, help them not only under my leadership, but under future leadership, under future roles. So I think that's the most important thing is that, you're doing this really with it might not seem like it, but you're doing it for their benefit. And to me, also big part of my career is, and a big part of my leadership traits and something that always motivates me is, always making sure we're delivering for our customers. So that's the other piece that I really try to kind of ground the team in is that we need to make sure what we're doing, leads to delivering for our customers.
100%. That's definitely something that being in your leadership style and seeing you do that has been really impactful to me over the past few years and then also months as we've started to go through like the acquisition. So like just having that customer focus has helped really motivate me. And I know that that has kind of continued. Um, can you describe a time when team members had different work or communication styles that led to misunderstandings or conflicts?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest is, having worked most of my career in product management and more on the technical side, I tend to work with, very technical folks. And I also work with strategy folks, which are very kind of big picture thinkers. And I think what you end up getting is you get people that are very kind of operational, detail focused, and people that are kind of big picture focused. And so you have to do a good job kind of bridging the gap. And I think one thing that I've always tried to do is highlight how kind of important it is to have both sides of the coin. You need people that can think of long-term strategy, long-term vision, and think very strategically in big picture. But you certainly also need more operational people that are willing to kind of get into the weeds, so to speak, to kind of make things happen. But without having both sides of the coin, really you would have a pretty lackluster organization. So you really need both. And that's what I've tried to do is I've really tried to be that glue between the two groups. I think one of my things that I do well is I can speak to different audience levels or different kind of parts of the organization. So I understand enough of the technical stuff where I understand their dilemmas, their issues, but I also know enough of the business to kind of understand, when someone is looking at a strategy and, long-term business ramifications, what are the facts? So I think I can often mediate and translate between the two groups.
Yeah, I think that's impactful, especially when you look at like telling the story of what we're trying to do with the product and getting it either approved or having an improvement or a process go through. Your ability to lead through different communication styles definitely resonates there.
Thank you.
When we talk about personal growth and strategy, have you ever had a time where your personal values clashed with the organization's norms or directives? And how did you navigate that conflict? And what did you learn from the experience?
Yeah, I don't know if I can have if I have an example that, had where I worked through it as far as a resolution. I did work for a company that had a really toxic culture, and it was so bad there was often confrontations amongst associates. And for me, the a final straw in that company was when an engineering manager just refused to help resolve a customer issue. And it really made me move on from the organization. I made a conscious decision after that the organization and I just were not in alignment. I think I learned something that was pretty invaluable is that to me, I wanted to be in a company that was customer focused, and part of their value proposition was around providing, exceptional customer support. And I think I also learned that, to me, it's very important to have a company that has, values and behaviors that align with mine. So highly ethical, customer focused. Those were things that, as I looked for new companies to seek employment with, I wanted to make sure that was part of their mission statement and part of their value proposition.
Yeah, sounds like from your experience, it's easier to find an organization that you align with than to go against the grain and have something that doesn't follow your personal creed.
Yeah, I think in the long run you're not going to be happy. You might be able to go through the motions. But you inevitably I think you want to make sure that, your kind of values are at least in some way, shape, or form, part of the company values.
Effectively setting expectations and goals is essential to performance management. What are some of the best practices you utilize to set expectations and evaluate performance?
Yeah, very good question. So I think from the first part, what you want to do as a leader is you want to set the vision and strategy for the whole team. And so what are at a laddered up level, what are our team goals and objectives? But then I think it's really important to give the associate an opportunity to come up with a plan that's individualized for them that kind of ladders up to the overall team goals. So, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that it is something that the associate um, develops and is willing to sign up to because it's their individual plan. Now, you certainly need to make sure that, they're smart goals, they're meeting objectives, it is laddering up to the overall team strategy and goals, but it's important for them to kind of have some skin in the game when evaluating performance, it's always, I think, good to have measurable, quantifiable, obviously the industry uses the term SMART goals, but to make sure that there's goals that we can at the end of the year objectively kind of, um, evaluate together and say, did we hit them or did we not hit them? But I also think it's really important, as you evaluate someone's performance, you have to look at any large kind of macro organizational changes or impacts when you consider evaluating performance. For instance, if a product or project was canceled or funding was removed, I mean that needs to be kind of considered in when you're doing your kind of evaluations things like the situation we're in where company we had a lot of shifts because of the acquisition. Those are things that cause people to have to pivot, and you need to make sure that that's reflected and that's part of your analysis.
Yeah. That's definitely something I've seen a lot of in just the retail side too, when it comes to like commission structure and things along setting goals of like what impacted. So I think when it comes to like setting those goals, you have to have a clear understanding of did the associate strive to hit the business goals and what did that look like? What's the biggest leadership challenge you faced in your career and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I will say I'm not through it because I'm currently facing it. I think, leading a team in a company that's been acquired, where we kind of have a rough idea when the acquisition is going to go in, but we don't fully know. So there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of challenges, and to me, it's important to keep everyone motivated. So, while this process is still ongoing, to me, how I'm kind of overcoming it is really continuing to focus on making sure that we deliver, for our customers and that we hand off something to the new buyer that's in really good shape. I think those are things that are important to me. I think also from an individual level, it's making sure that everyone is taking the time to kind of enrich their personal development. So when the time comes and the acquisition goes through, everyone will be kind of in a good position to kind of pursue additional or endeavors or pursue additional job opportunities. And lastly, to me, it's always important to understand every day for people, it's going to be different as far as questions or concerns. And so just to be available, to be a sounding board, to make sure that I'm directing any questions that they have to the appropriate leaders. Those are things that I've kind of done at least to help kind of ease some of the burden.